Every day without noticing, you are being conditioned to be distracted. Your attention, once a powerful, focused beam, capable of deep thinking, creativity, and problem solving, has been hijacked. You wake up and check your phone before your feet even touch the ground. You scroll, swipe, consume, and before you know it, an hour has vanished. You sit down to work, but within minutes, your brain craves a hit of novelty. Just a quick check of email, just a glance at social media, just a reply to a text. You tell yourself it's only for a second, but the next time you look up, your momentum is gone. Your focus shattered. It's harder to concentrate than ever before. You start things, but don't finish them. Your to-do list grows, but your ability to engage deeply shrinks. And the scariest part? It's not your fault. Your brain has been rewired without your permission. This isn't just an observation. It's science. Research shows that the human attention span is shrinking, our ability to think deeply is deteriorating, and our brains are being trained intentionally by the modern world to seek constant stimulation instead of sustained focus. The very tools designed to make life easier, smartphones, social media, endless notifications, are instead reshaping our cognitive abilities, making us more reactive, more anxious, and less capable of deep work. This is not a coincidence. It's a system designed to keep you consuming instead of creating, reacting instead of thinking, scrolling instead of focusing. And unless you actively take back control, you will continue to lose more and more of your ability to concentrate, to stay present, and to work toward what truly matters. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. You can rewire your brain. You're not stuck in distraction mode forever. Science has proven that the brain is malleable, what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, meaning you have the power to reshape your focus, reclaim your attention, and rebuild the cognitive strength needed for deep, meaningful work. The problem isn't that you lack willpower or discipline. The problem is that you've been conditioned by your environment, your habits, and the technology around you to operate in a state of constant distraction. And that conditioning can be reversed if you know how. This book is not about vague advice or unrealistic productivity hacks. This is a step-by-step, neuroscience-backed manual for taking control of your mind. You will learn exactly how your brain has been wired for distraction, how to break free from these patterns, and how to build an unshakable focus system that allows you to do deep, uninterrupted work in a world that is constantly pulling you away. This is not just about getting more done. This is about reclaiming your ability to think clearly, to focus deeply, and to create a life that isn't controlled by constant interruptions. How technology, habits, and environment shape your focus. The truth is, you are not distracted by choice. You are distracted by design. The modern world is engineered to steal your attention. Tech companies have spent billions refining their algorithms, studying neuroscience, and optimizing their platforms to keep you hooked. Every time you check your phone, every time you refresh your feed, every time you get a notification, your brain is flooded with a tiny hit of dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation and reward. Over time, this reinforcement cycle conditions you to crave distractions, to seek out quick bursts of stimulation instead of long, sustained focus. And it's not just technology. Your habits, your routines, even your environment all play a role in shaping your ability to focus. If your phone is always within reach, if your work setup invites interruptions, if you're constantly switching between tasks, your brain adapts to this chaotic rhythm, making it harder to engage in deep, meaningful work. You might think you just need more discipline, but the truth is, your brain is operating exactly as it has been trained to. But here's the good news. Just as your brain has been wired for distraction, it can be rewired for deep focus. The same principles of neuroplasticity that allow distractions to hijack your attention can be used to take back control. The key is understanding how your brain works, how habits shape behavior, and how to create an environment that naturally supports deep concentration instead of constant interruptions. If you've ever felt like you're just not a focused person, or that you simply weren't born with the ability to concentrate for long periods, you've been lied to. Your brain is not fixed. It is constantly adapting, rewiring, and changing based on how you use it. This is the foundation of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections throughout life. Every habit, every thought pattern, every action you repeat strengthens certain neural pathways. When you engage in distractions, when you multitask, when you constantly switch from one thing to another, you reinforce the neural circuits that make distraction easier and deep focus harder. But when you deliberately train yourself to engage in deep work, when you remove distractions, when you practice sustained attention, you strengthen the circuits that allow you to focus effortlessly. Think of your brain like a dense forest. The paths you take most often become well-worn trails, easier to follow. The less traveled paths become overgrown and harder to navigate. Right now, for most people, the distraction pathways are highways, and the focus pathways are barely visible trails. But with intentional effort, you can reverse this. You can train your brain to default to focus instead of distraction, making deep concentration your natural state rather than something you struggle to achieve. This book is not just about theory. It is about action. Each chapter will guide you through practical, neuroscience-backed techniques for rewiring your brain for deep focus and sustained attention. Each chapter is designed to be immediately actionable, with exercises and techniques that you can implement as you read. This is not just about knowledge, it's about transformation. By the time you finish this book, you will not only understand how to reclaim your focus, but you will have built the systems and habits that make it effortless. Right now, you have two choices. You can continue letting your attention be controlled by external forces, struggling with distractions, feeling frustrated by your inability to concentrate. Or you can take control, rewire your brain, and build the ability to focus deeply in a way that changes everything. The choice is yours. But if you're ready to break free from the cycle of distraction and unlock your true potential, then let's get started. Because once you learn how to control your attention, you gain control over everything. Chapter 1. How Focus Works, the Prefrontal Cortex and Dopamine Tug of War. Let's start with a question. When was the last time you sat down to work on something important, something that truly mattered, only to find yourself reaching for your phone within minutes? Maybe you meant to check a quick notification, but that turned into scrolling through social media, responding to a few messages, watching a video, and suddenly, what happened? 10, 20, or even 30 minutes had vanished. You snap back, frustrated with yourself, wondering why you keep falling into the same trap. And the worst part? It keeps happening. Again and again. If that sounds familiar, don't worry. It's not your fault. Your brain isn't broken and you're not lazy. What's happening is the result of a deeply wired battle inside your brain, a struggle between two forces. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational, goal-oriented part of your brain that wants to focus, and your limbic system, the older, more instinct-driven part that craves instant gratification. This internal tug-of-war is at the heart of why distractions feel irresistible, why focus is so hard to maintain, and why, even when we have the best intentions, we so often fall short. To truly rewire your brain for focus, you first need to understand what's happening behind the scenes. And it all starts with a simple but powerful truth. Your brain wasn't built for the modern world. For thousands of years, human attention was shaped by survival. Our ancestors needed to be hyper-aware of their surroundings, listening for the rustling of a predator in the bushes, noticing small changes in the environment, reacting instantly to potential threats. This was the evolutionary function of distraction. It kept us alive. If our brains had been hardwired for deep, uninterrupted focus, we might have missed those crucial signs and, well, we wouldn't be here today. But here's the problem. That same survival mechanism that once protected us is now being hijacked by social media, notifications, endless entertainment, and the addictive design of modern technology. Let's break this down scientifically. Your prefrontal cortex, located right behind your forehead, is the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and, most importantly, focus. It's what allows you to concentrate on a task, block out distractions, and engage in deep, meaningful work. But the prefrontal cortex isn't alone. It's constantly competing with your limbic system, a much older part of the brain responsible for emotions, habit formation, and reward-seeking behaviors. Here's where things get interesting. The limbic system is driven by dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical that makes us feel good. It's the brain's reward currency, released whenever we experience pleasure, excitement, or anticipation of a reward. It's what makes eating a delicious meal enjoyable, what makes winning a game exciting, and, unfortunately, what makes distractions so addictive. Every time you check your phone and see a new notification, your brain gets a tiny hit of dopamine. And because your brain is wired to seek more of what feels good, it conditions you to keep coming back for more. Over time, this creates a powerful loop. The more you engage with distractions, the more your brain craves them. Now, here's the kicker. The prefrontal cortex doesn't get the same kind of instant rewards. Unlike the limbic system, which thrives on quick bursts of dopamine, the prefrontal cortex operates on delayed gratification. Deep work, meaningful achievements, and long-term success don't provide instant pleasure. They require effort, patience, and time. This is why focus feels like work, while distractions feel effortless. It's why scrolling social media is easy, but writing a report is hard. It's why binge-watching videos is automatic, but reading a book takes discipline. Your brain is wired to take the easy way out, unless you train it differently. But here's where things get exciting. You can rewire this system. You can retrain your brain to crave focus just as much as it craves distractions. It starts with understanding one key principle. Attention is a skill. Just like physical fitness, attention can be trained, strengthened, and improved over time. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, right? Focus works the same way. If you want to be able to concentrate for long periods, you have to exercise your attention muscles daily. Let's put this into perspective with a simple analogy. Imagine your focus is like a flashlight. In a dark room, you can choose to shine that flashlight on a single object, illuminating it clearly. But if you keep waving the light around, flicking it from one spot to another, nothing stays in focus long enough to see it clearly. Most of us are constantly waving our mental flashlight all over the place, scattering our attention in so many directions that nothing gets the full power of our focus. So, how do we fix this? How do we regain control over our mental flashlight and strengthen our ability to focus? The first step is awareness, recognizing when your attention is being hijacked and understanding why. The second step is intentional training, exercises that gradually improve your brain's ability to sustain attention. And the third step is changing your environment, creating a space and routine that supports deep work instead of distraction. Now I want you to try something. Take a moment and notice your own attention right now. Is your mind fully here, engaged with this audiobook? Or has it drifted, perhaps to something you need to do later, a random thought, or even a subtle itch to check your phone? If your attention has wandered, don't judge yourself. Just observe it. Recognizing when your focus shifts is the first step toward training it. This small exercise, catching yourself getting distracted and bringing your attention back, is a powerful way to build awareness. Every time you do this, you are strengthening your prefrontal cortex, increasing your ability to focus for longer periods. And just like going to the gym, the more you practice, the stronger you get. In the next part of this chapter, we'll dive deeper into the myth of multitasking, why it's destroying your productivity, how it tricks your brain into thinking it's working harder than it actually is, and the science behind why single tasking is the real key to peak performance. But for now, here's a simple challenge. For the next 10 minutes, try doing just one thing with full attention. Whether it's listening to the next part of this audiobook, drinking a cup of coffee, or writing an email, focus on it fully without switching tasks. Pay attention to how often your mind wants to wander and gently bring it back. This simple exercise is the foundation of rebuilding your attention span. Chapter 2. The Myth of Multitasking. Why your brain can't handle it. Picture this. You're working on an important project, but your email is open in another tab. Every few minutes, you check your phone for messages. At the same time, you're listening to a podcast in the background, and somewhere in between, you're replying to a coworker on Slack. You feel productive. After all, you're doing so many things at once. But suddenly an hour has passed, and that important project? It's barely made any progress. Sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Most of us live under the illusion that multitasking is an essential skill, a way to get more done in less time. We believe that balancing multiple tasks at once is a sign of efficiency and intelligence. And why wouldn't we? Society rewards the idea of being constantly busy, juggling responsibilities, responding to notifications immediately, and always staying connected. But here's the shocking truth. Multitasking is a myth. Not only does it not make you more productive, but it actually makes you significantly less effective, more stressed, and mentally drained. Now you might be thinking, wait, I multitask all the time? I listen to music while working. I text while watching TV. I cook while talking on the phone. Isn't that multitasking? The answer? Not exactly. What you're actually doing is something called task switching, and it's wreaking havoc on your ability to focus. To understand why, we need to look at how your brain processes attention. Unlike a computer that can run multiple programs simultaneously, your brain doesn't truly do two cognitively demanding tasks at the same time. Instead, it rapidly switches back and forth between tasks, shifting attention from one to the other. Every time you shift focus, your brain has to reorient itself, refocus on the new task, and recall where it left off on the previous one. This process isn't seamless. It comes with a hidden cost, the cognitive cost of switching. Each time your brain shifts between tasks, it experiences something called attention residue, a lingering mental footprint from the previous task. This residue slows down your ability to fully engage in the new task because part of your cognitive energy is still tied up with what you were just doing. Imagine you're writing an important report, but you decide to quickly check an email in between. Even after you return to your report, a part of your brain is still processing that email. You might be thinking about what to reply, wondering if you missed something, or even feeling slightly distracted by what you just read. This delay, often just a few seconds or minutes, adds up massively over time. In fact, a study from the University of California, Irvine, found that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully regain focus after an interruption. Think about that. Every time you switch tasks, you're essentially throwing away 20 minutes of deep concentration. If you check your phone or email 10 times a day while working, you've lost nearly 4 hours of productivity. And it gets worse. A study conducted at Stanford University found that frequent multitaskers perform worse on memory tasks, problem solving, and even basic cognitive functions compared to those who focus on one thing at a time. Their brains struggle to filter out irrelevant information, meaning they are more easily distracted, less efficient, and slower at completing complex tasks. So if multitasking doesn't work, Why do we keep doing it? The answer lies in dopamine addiction. Just like in part 1, where we discussed how your brain craves instant rewards. Every time you switch tasks, your brain gets a tiny hit of dopamine. Checking a new notification, responding to a message, or flipping between tabs makes your brain feel momentarily productive, even though it's actually making you less effective. Over time, this creates a habit loop. Your brain starts craving these tiny bursts of dopamine, tricking you into believing that switching tasks is helpful when it's actually slowing you down. Single tasking, the real key to peak focus. So, what's the solution? If multitasking is hurting us, what should we do instead? The answer is single tasking, the practice of focusing on one thing at a time, with full attention and no interruptions. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds great, but in today's world, is it even possible? The truth is, single tasking isn't just possible. It's the only way to unlock deep focus, get more done, and feel less mentally exhausted. But just like breaking any bad habit, it requires conscious effort. Let's start small. Right now, I want you to try something. Choose one task. Just one. Maybe it's listening to the next section of this audiobook without distractions, writing a to-do list, or even making a cup of coffee. Whatever it is, give it your full attention. That means no checking your phone, no switching to something else, no distractions. Just one task, start to finish. As you do this, notice what happens. If you're like most people, you'll probably feel an almost physical urge to switch, to check your phone, glance at your email, or think about something else. This is your brain's multitasking habit fighting back. But if you push through it, something amazing happens. Your focus strengthens. The more you practice single tasking, the easier it gets, and the longer you can sustain deep concentration without feeling restless. Over time, this rewires your brain. You'll start to notice that distractions feel less tempting, that you can stay engaged in tasks for longer, and that your ability to focus sharpens in ways you never thought possible. Your brain on deep work. When you commit to single tasking, you enter what neuroscientists call deep work, a state of intense focus where your brain operates at its highest potential. In this state, you produce better work in less time, solve problems more efficiently, and experience a sense of creative flow that feels almost effortless. The secret to mastering deep work? Eliminate distractions before they happen. Here are a few quick techniques to get started. 1. Turn off notifications. Your phone doesn't need to buzz every time you get a message. Disable notifications for non-essential apps. 2. Use the 90-minute rule. Work in deep focus blocks of 90 minutes, then take a short break before restarting. 3. Create a distraction-free workspace. Remove anything that tempts you to switch tasks. If you don't need your phone or extra browser tabs open, put them away. 4. Schedule time for shallow tasks. Emails and messages don't need to be answered instantly. Set aside 2 to 3 dedicated times a day for handling them instead of constantly checking. By applying these techniques, you'll gradually retrain your brain to focus deeply, breaking free from the illusion of multitasking and unlocking your true cognitive potential. In the next section, we'll go even deeper, exploring the 3 types of focus: sustained, selective, and divided attention, and how to train each one for peak performance. But for now, your challenge is simple. Pick one task and focus on it fully for just 10 minutes. No distractions, no switching. Chapter 3. The 3 types of focus and how to train them. Have you ever sat down to do something important, determined to give it your full attention, only to find your mind wandering within minutes? One moment, you're locked in, fully engaged. The next, you're thinking about an email you forgot to send, a notification that just popped up, or what you're having for dinner later. Before you know it, an hour has passed and you've barely made a dent in your task. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Most people struggle to maintain focus for more than a few minutes at a time. We live in a world designed to pull our attention in 1,000 different directions, and without realizing it, we've trained our brains to be constantly distracted. But what if I told you that focus isn't something you either have or don't have? It's not an inborn trait. It's a skill, one you can train, strengthen, and master. Just like athletes train their muscles for endurance and precision, you can train your brain to focus deeply, block out distractions, and sustain attention for longer periods. The key? Understanding the 3 fundamental types of focus: sustained attention, selective attention, and divided attention, and learning how to develop each one. Most people think of focus as a singular ability, but that's not the case. In reality, your brain uses different types of focus depending on the task at hand. Sustained attention allows you to concentrate on a single task for an extended period. Selective attention enables you to filter out distractions and focus on what truly matters. Divided attention, often misunderstood as multitasking, helps you shift between tasks when necessary without completely losing focus. Each of these plays a crucial role in your ability to stay productive and engaged, and when trained properly, they allow you to reach a level of deep concentration that most people never experience. So, how do we develop these skills? Let's break them down, one by one. 1. Sustained attention, training your brain to focus for longer periods. Imagine trying to run a marathon without training. You might make it a few miles, but before long you'll be gasping for breath, muscles burning, completely exhausted. That's exactly what happens to your brain when you try to focus for long periods without training your attention span. Most people have conditioned their brains for short bursts of attention, constantly switching between tasks, notifications, and distractions. The result? They struggle to sustain focus for more than a few minutes before feeling mentally drained. But here's the truth. Your ability to focus for long periods is like a muscle. It grows stronger the more you train it. The problem is that most people never intentionally train their sustained attention. Instead, they constantly weaken it by indulging in endless task switching, checking their phones every few minutes, and allowing themselves to be pulled in different directions. So, how do you rebuild your attention span? The key is progressive training, gradually increasing the length of time you can focus deeply without distraction. Start by setting a focus timer for 25 minutes. Choose a single task. Eliminate all distractions and commit to working on it for the full duration without interruption. When the timer goes off, take a 5-minute break before starting another round. This method, often referred to as the Pomodoro technique, is highly effective because it trains your brain to extend its attention span over time. Each week, increase your focus sessions by 5 minutes, gradually pushing yourself to sustain attention for longer periods. Over time, your ability to concentrate will grow, and tasks that once felt mentally exhausting will become easier to complete. Another powerful way to train sustained attention is through single-tasking challenges. Pick a simple everyday activity, like eating a meal, washing the dishes, or even walking, and practice doing it with 100% focus, no distractions, no checking your phone, no watching TV, no background noise, just full engagement with the task at hand. This strengthens your brain's ability to stay present, making it easier to focus on more complex tasks when needed. 2. Selective attention, learning to block out distractions. If sustained attention is about endurance, selective attention is about precision. It's your ability to filter out distractions and focus only on what truly matters. In today's world, this is more important than ever because we are constantly bombarded with information competing for our attention. Every notification, every background noise, every passing thought is a potential distraction, pulling us away from what's important. But here's the secret. You don't have to eliminate all distractions. You just have to train your brain to ignore them. Your brain is already equipped with a powerful filtering system called the Reticular Activating System, RAS. This system acts like a gatekeeper, deciding which information gets through and which gets ignored. You can train it to automatically tune out distractions by strengthening your selective attention. One of the best ways to do this is through attentional training exercises. Try this. Find a busy place, a coffee shop, a park, or even a room with background noise. Choose a single point of focus, like reading a book or writing in a notebook. Challenge yourself to fully concentrate on that task while blocking out the surrounding noise. At first, you'll notice every sound and movement around you, but over time, your brain will learn to filter out distractions automatically. Another technique is the single thought exercise. Set a timer for 5 minutes and focus on one single thought, idea, or problem. Whenever your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to that thought. This strengthens your brain's ability to hold focus and resist distractions, making it easier to stay engaged in complex tasks. 3. Divided attention, mastering task switching without losing focus. Divided attention often gets confused with multitasking, but they are not the same thing. Multitasking, trying to do 2 cognitively demanding tasks at the same time, is a myth. Your brain can't fully focus on more than one complex task at a time. However, divided attention, the ability to shift between tasks efficiently when necessary, is a skill that can be trained. The key to improving divided attention is intentional switching. Instead of bouncing between tasks randomly, set clear boundaries for when you'll switch between responsibilities. For example, if you're working on a report and need to answer emails, dedicate specific blocks of time for each task instead of flipping between them constantly. Another strategy is batch processing. Group similar tasks together, emails, meetings, creative work, and tackle them in focused blocks instead of scattering them throughout the day. This minimizes mental switching costs, allowing you to stay engaged in each task more effectively. Final thoughts. Building a stronger, more focused mind. Mastering focus isn't about working harder. It's about training your brain to function at its highest level. By strengthening sustained attention, selective attention, and divided attention, you can dramatically improve your ability to concentrate, filter out distractions, and stay mentally sharp. Now, here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, pay attention to how often you switch tasks. Every time you catch yourself getting distracted, pause, take a deep breath, and bring your focus back. Chapter 4. How the modern world hijacks your focus and how to take it back. Have you ever sat down with the intention to complete an important task, only to find yourself checking your phone within minutes? Have you ever planned to focus deeply, only to realize an hour later that you've been cycling through apps, mindlessly scrolling, or jumping between tabs without making any real progress? If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. In fact, you are experiencing exactly what the modern world has designed you to experience. A state of perpetual distraction, engineered by companies that profit from your fragmented attention. You may believe that your struggles with focus are due to a lack of willpower or discipline, but the truth is far more insidious. The modern environment has been deliberately crafted to capture and hold your attention, not for your benefit, but for the benefit of those who thrive on keeping you hooked. The most valuable commodity in today's world is not oil, gold, or real estate. It is your attention. The ability to hold someone's focus, to pull them away from what matters to them and direct their mental energy elsewhere, has become the foundation of multi-billion-dollar industries. And the most alarming part? Most people don't even realize it's happening to them. Right now, as you listen, your brain has already been rewired in ways you may not fully understand. Your attention span has likely shortened over the years. your ability to engage in deep work has been diminished, and your tolerance for boredom has nearly vanished. Why? Because the world around you is built to maximize stimulation, not concentration. Every time you open an app, a website, or even glance at your phone, you are stepping into an ecosystem designed to keep you engaged for as long as possible. The goal is not to help you focus, be productive, or accomplish meaningful work. The goal is to keep you clicking, scrolling, consuming, and craving more. And this isn't just happening by accident. This is happening by design. The reason focus feels harder today than it did years ago is not that your brain has gotten weaker. It's that the tools of distraction have gotten stronger. Your attention is being shaped by algorithms that know exactly how to trigger your impulses. Every time you feel the urge to check your notifications, refresh your feed, or switch tasks before finishing what you started, you are not just experiencing a random impulse. You are experiencing a carefully engineered response, reinforced by years of exposure to digital distractions. Every habit of distraction you have today was formed through repeated exposure to systems designed to hijack your mind. And the key to breaking free is understanding how these systems work, how they are rewiring your brain, and how you can take back control. To truly grasp the depth of this problem, we need to look at the neuroscience behind distraction. At the core of your attention struggles is dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation, pleasure, and reinforcement. Dopamine is what drives you to seek out things that feel rewarding. In a natural environment, dopamine would be released in response to meaningful activities, completing a task, solving a problem, achieving a goal. But today, dopamine is being artificially hijacked by technology that delivers instant, effortless rewards with no effort required. Every time you receive a notification, check social media, or open a new tab, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine. This feels good, so your brain remembers it and starts seeking out the behavior again. Over time, this creates a loop. You feel a moment of boredom, you check your phone, you get a dopamine hit, and the habit strengthens. The problem with this cycle is that it conditions your brain to expect instant gratification, making it harder and harder to engage in deep, sustained focus. The more you feed your brain quick hits of stimulation, the less it can tolerate slow, effortful work. This is why so many people today struggle to read a book without reaching for their phone, to sit down for focused work without checking email, or to have a conversation without the urge to multitask. Your brain has adapted to a world of constant interruptions, novelty, and instant reward, and in doing so, it has become less capable of deep, undistracted thought. But just as your brain was trained for distraction, it can be trained for focus. The first step to reclaiming your focus is identifying the biggest culprits hijacking your attention. There are 4 primary traps that keep you distracted, and each one is designed to exploit a different psychological weakness. Understanding these traps and implementing strategies to escape them is essential if you want to regain control over your mind. The 4 biggest attention traps and how to break free. The first trap is the infinite scroll. Social media platforms and content websites are not designed for your benefit. They are designed to maximize engagement, and the easiest way to do this is to eliminate natural stopping points. Unlike a book or a TV show, which have clear endings, apps like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter use infinite scrolling to keep you hooked indefinitely. Each time you swipe, your brain expects a new piece of content, triggering a fresh release of dopamine. The unpredictability of what comes next mimics the psychological mechanics of a slot machine. Your brain craves the next hit, so you keep scrolling, often far longer than you intended. To break free from this, you need to reintroduce stopping points into your digital experience. One of the most effective strategies is to set intentional time limits before you start using social media, rather than relying on willpower to stop. Another approach is to turn your phone screen grayscale, which reduces the visual appeal of apps and makes them less engaging. Finally, Removing social media apps from your home screen adds a small barrier to access, forcing you to be more intentional about opening them. The second trap is the notification hijack. Notifications are not reminders. They are interruptions. Their purpose is not to inform you, but to pull you back into an app and keep you engaged. Each notification acts as a tiny distraction, breaking your focus and resetting your brain's attention. Even if you don't check a notification immediately, just seeing the alert creates a mental itch that lingers in your subconscious, draining your cognitive resources. To escape this, disable all non-essential notifications. If something is truly urgent, people will call. Set designated times to check emails and messages, rather than responding to them the moment they arrive. And during deep work sessions, use Do Not Disturb mode to protect your focus. The third trap is the multitasking myth. Many people believe they can focus on multiple things at once, but in reality, multitasking is just rapid task switching, and it comes with a heavy cognitive cost. Each time you switch tasks, your brain must readjust, creating a delay that slows you down and fragments your attention. Studies have shown that people who multitask frequently actually perform worse on cognitive tasks and have lower attention spans over time. The final trap is the instant gratification loop. The modern world has trained you to expect immediate rewards, making patience and deep work feel increasingly difficult. To break this, start using delayed gratification techniques like the 10-minute rule. When you feel the urge to check your phone, wait 10 minutes first. Over time, this strengthens your ability to resist distractions and build deeper focus. By understanding these attention traps and implementing strategies to escape them, you can begin the process of rewiring your brain for sustained concentration. In Chapter 5, we'll go even deeper into the neuroscience of focus and explore advanced techniques for training your mind to resist distractions and achieve deep, uninterrupted work. Let's continue. Chapter 5. The Neuroscience of Focus. How to train your brain to resist distractions and achieve deep work. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to focus effortlessly while others constantly struggle with distractions, the answer lies not in willpower or discipline, but in the way their brains have been conditioned. Your ability to concentrate is not simply a matter of choice. It is a function of your neural wiring, shaped by years of habits, routines, and the environment you immerse yourself in. Every moment you spend engaged in an activity, your brain is strengthening the neural pathways associated with that behavior. If you regularly multitask, your brain adapts to rapid task switching, making it harder to focus deeply. If you frequently check your phone for short bursts of dopamine, your brain learns to prioritize instant rewards over long-term effort. If you allow distractions to dictate your attention, you reinforce a fragmented focus state that makes sustained concentration feel unnatural. But here's the good news. Your brain is not fixed. It is adaptable, moldable, and capable of rewiring itself for profound levels of focus. The key is understanding how attention works at a neurological level and using that knowledge to systematically retrain your mind. To truly master focus, we must first look at how attention is controlled in the brain. At the center of it all is a network of structures known as the attentional control system, a complex interplay of brain regions that determine where your focus goes and how long it stays there. One of the most important players in this system is the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center responsible for decision-making, planning, and sustained attention. When you sit down to work on a task, it is your prefrontal cortex that actively directs your focus and keeps distractions at bay. However, this system is in constant competition with another powerful force, the default mode network, DMN, which is responsible for mind-wandering, daydreaming, and spontaneous thoughts. The DMN is why you suddenly think about dinner plans while trying to work or find yourself reminiscing about past conversations when you should be focused on reading. The balance between these two networks, the attentional control system and the DMN, determines how effectively you can concentrate. If the attentional system is strong, you stay engaged with a task. If the DMN takes over, your mind drifts, leading to procrastination and distraction. The modern world has heavily strengthened the DMN through constant interruptions, notifications, and dopamine-driven habits, making deep focus increasingly difficult. But by deliberately training your attentional system, you can weaken your tendency to mind wander and strengthen your ability to stay immersed in deep work. One of the most effective ways to train your attention is through cognitive load management. Your brain has a limited attentional capacity, meaning it can only handle a certain amount of mental effort before fatigue sets in. The problem is that most people overload their brains with unnecessary distractions, switching between tasks, keeping multiple tabs open, checking their phones between work sessions, without realizing that every small switch drains mental energy. Each time you redirect your focus, your brain has to reset, leading to what researchers call the switching cost of attention. Studies have shown that even brief interruptions, like glancing at your phone for a few seconds, can result in a significant decrease in cognitive performance, often taking several minutes for your brain to fully re-engage with the original task. To counteract this, you must create an environment that minimizes cognitive load and allows your brain to fully dedicate itself to one task at a time. This means eliminating all non-essential stimuli from your workspace, blocking digital distractions, and training yourself to work in deep, uninterrupted blocks of time. One of the most effective techniques for building focus endurance is the attention reset protocol, a scientifically backed method that gradually increases your brain's ability to concentrate for longer periods. It involves starting with short, focused work sessions, as little as 15 to 20 minutes of deep work, followed by a brief rest period. Over time, you gradually extend the work intervals while maintaining the quality of focus, eventually reaching the ability to concentrate deeply for 90 minutes or more without distraction. This method works because it aligns with your brain's natural rhythm of focus and fatigue, ensuring that your mental resources are used efficiently without burning out. Most people fail to develop sustained attention, not because they lack the ability, but because they try to force themselves into long work sessions without first building up their focus endurance. By following a structured approach to increasing concentration, you rewire your brain to sustain deep focus effortlessly, rather than through brute force. Another powerful tool for strengthening attention is deliberate boredom training, a counterintuitive but highly effective method for reversing the damage caused by instant gratification. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with focus today is that their brains have been trained to avoid boredom at all costs. The moment they feel even the slightest bit of discomfort, they reach for their phones, check notifications, or find some other quick fix to escape the feeling. This habit weakens the brain's ability to tolerate mental effort, making it harder to engage in deep work. The solution? Reintroducing boredom as a training mechanism. This means deliberately engaging in activities that require patience and sustained attention. Reading long books, doing deep breathing exercises, or even sitting in silence without stimulation. When you allow yourself to experience boredom without immediately escaping it, you retrain your brain to tolerate slower, more effortful cognitive tasks. Over time, this makes deep work feel natural rather than exhausting and increases your ability to stay focused for longer periods. Equally important is physical optimization for mental performance. Your brain is not separate from your body, and your ability to focus is deeply influenced by factors like sleep, exercise, and nutrition. Sleep deprivation alone can reduce cognitive performance by up to 40%, drastically weakening your ability to concentrate. Regular exercise has been shown to increase neuroplasticity, improving your brain's capacity for sustained focus. Even something as simple as staying hydrated and maintaining stable blood sugar levels can have a profound impact on attention, preventing energy crashes that lead to mental fatigue. Optimizing these foundational factors ensures that your brain has the biological resources needed to sustain deep concentration throughout the day. By implementing these strategies, training your attentional control system, managing cognitive load, practicing boredom tolerance, and optimizing physical factors, you can systematically rewire your brain for intense focus and deep work. In Chapter 6, we will explore how to design your environment for maximum attention, removing hidden distractions, and building a workflow that supports deep concentration. If you've ever felt like your surroundings are working against you, this next section will show you exactly how to take control and create a focus-friendly environment that primes your brain for peak performance. Chapter 6. Designing your environment for maximum focus, eliminating hidden distractions, and structuring your space for deep work. If you've ever found yourself sitting down with the intention of getting work done, only to feel an invisible force pulling you toward distractions, checking your phone, glancing at notifications, clicking on an unrelated tab, you are experiencing a battle you don't even realize is happening. The truth is, your ability to focus is not just about willpower or motivation. It is deeply influenced by the environment you place yourself in. The modern world is designed to hijack your attention at every turn, and without realizing it, you may be setting yourself up for failure before you even begin working. You might think that distraction is simply a result of inner weakness, but in reality, your physical surroundings, digital landscape, and sensory inputs all play a crucial role in shaping the quality of your focus. Most people never consciously design their environment for attention, yet they expect themselves to resist a world engineered for distraction. But just as a chaotic, cluttered space makes it harder to think clearly, an unstructured digital environment makes it nearly impossible to maintain deep focus. The key to reclaiming your attention lies in understanding the hidden distractions that pull you away from deep work and systematically eliminating them while creating an environment that naturally fosters sustained concentration. One of the most overlooked yet powerful factors in attention is visual clutter. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for information, and when your workspace is filled with unnecessary objects, your subconscious mind processes each item, creating micro-distractions that drain mental energy. Every stray document, every unorganized stack of papers, every misplaced object in your field of vision takes up a small amount of cognitive load, even if you are not consciously paying attention to it. The more cluttered your space, the more mental effort is required just to stay focused on your primary task. This is why a minimalist, intentional workspace is not just about aesthetics. It is about reducing cognitive overload and allowing your mind to focus without unnecessary distractions. The first step in designing a focus-friendly environment is to audit your workspace and remove everything that does not serve a functional or inspiring purpose. Keep only the essentials: your computer, a notebook, and perhaps a single object that inspires you. By eliminating excess stimuli, you are removing potential mental friction before it has a chance to derail your focus. Equally important is digital clutter, which is often even more insidious than physical clutter because it is invisible until it suddenly pulls you in. Your phone, laptop, and digital workspace are filled with potential distractions: unread emails, social media alerts, endless browser tabs that constantly compete for your attention. Every time you see a notification, even if you do not respond to it, your brain registers it as an unresolved task, creating a background sense of anxiety that weakens focus. Research shows that simply having your phone in the same room can reduce cognitive performance, even if it is face down and silenced. This is because your mind remains partially tethered to the possibility of an incoming message, pulling valuable resources away from deep work. The solution? Create a distraction-free digital environment before you begin working. This means closing all unnecessary tabs, putting your phone in another room, and using website blockers to prevent access to time-wasting sites during focus sessions. Treat your digital space the same way you would treat your physical space. Remove all clutter before you start, so your mind is fully free to concentrate. Another often underestimated factor in focus is sound and sensory input. Most people assume that they can work just as well with background noise, conversations, or music playing, but research suggests otherwise. Your brain is constantly processing auditory stimuli, even when you are not actively listening, meaning that every background conversation, notification sound, or distant TV show is draining a small percentage of your mental energy. Studies show that people who work in quiet, controlled environments experience significantly higher levels of concentration and problem-solving ability compared to those in noisy or unpredictable settings. The reason? Your brain is designed to prioritize novel stimuli, so every unexpected sound, whether it's a coworker talking, a dog barking, or a phone vibrating, pulls a fraction of your attention away from your work. To maximize focus, you must create an auditory environment that minimizes distractions and enhances concentration. This means either working in a silent space or using noise-canceling headphones with neutral background sounds like white noise, rainfall, or instrumental music with no lyrics. The goal is to eliminate any unpredictable stimuli that could hijack your attention while providing a consistent, non-distracting auditory background that supports deep work. Beyond physical and digital environments, your work structure also plays a crucial role in focus. Most people approach their work with an unstructured, reactive mindset, switching between tasks as they arise, responding to emails as they come in, and allowing external demands to dictate their schedule. This chaotic approach creates a fragmented attention span, making deep work nearly impossible. The key to sustained concentration is proactive structure, deliberately designing your work sessions to optimize mental energy. This starts with time blocking, allocating specific uninterrupted blocks of time for deep work, during which all distractions are eliminated. Rather than reacting to tasks as they appear, you create a pre-planned workflow that prioritizes focus over randomness. Additionally, incorporating pre-work rituals can help signal to your brain that it is time to enter a deep focus state. This could be as simple as a short breathing exercise, a 5-minute journal reflection, or a structured plan outlining the task at hand. By creating a consistent starting ritual, you train your brain to shift into a high attention state more quickly, reducing the struggle of getting into deep work mode. Perhaps the most powerful yet underutilized tool for focus is intentional breaks. Many people believe that working for long, uninterrupted hours is the key to productivity, but research shows that the brain's attentional system works best in oscillating cycles of deep focus followed by recovery. When you push yourself to concentrate for too long without breaks, your mental energy depletes, leading to diminishing returns and increased susceptibility to distractions. The solution is to follow the principle of strategic rest, taking planned, high-quality breaks that recharge your cognitive resources rather than drain them. This does not mean mindlessly scrolling through your phone or checking emails, as those activities only fragment your attention further. Instead, true mental recovery comes from stepping away from screens, engaging in movement, deep breathing, or simply allowing your mind to rest in silence. Short, restorative breaks enhance your ability to sustain focus for longer periods, making deep work sessions far more effective. By systematically designing an environment that removes distractions, optimizes sensory input, structures your work, and incorporates strategic breaks, you create the ideal conditions for sustained, high-performance focus. This is not about forcing yourself to work harder through sheer willpower. It is about removing friction, eliminating mental drains, and making deep concentration the natural state of your mind. In Chapter 7, we will take this even further by exploring the psychological triggers that strengthen or weaken your focus, the role of internal motivation, and how to develop an unshakable mindset for deep work. If you've ever felt like your focus is inconsistent or dependent on external circumstances, this next section will show you how to build a resilient, distraction-proof mind that thrives in any situation. Chapter 7. Strengthening your mental fortress. Psychological triggers, motivation, and building an unshakable focus mindset. There is an invisible war being waged on your mind, one that you may not even realize you are fighting. It is a war between your intentions and impulses, between your desire to focus and the endless distractions engineered to pull you away. It is the battle between your higher self, the part of you that craves meaning, deep work, and mastery, and your primal mind, which is wired for instant gratification, novelty-seeking, and short-term rewards. Every time you sit down to work on something that truly matters, this internal conflict arises, one side urging you to commit, engage, and push through discomfort, while the other tempts you to check your phone, refresh your inbox, or escape into easy distractions. This war is not won with willpower alone. It is won by understanding and mastering the psychological triggers that shape your ability to focus. When you know what strengthens your attention and what weakens it, you can systematically train your mind to operate at peak cognitive performance, making deep focus your default state rather than a rare achievement. The first step in mastering focus is understanding the two fundamental drivers of human behavior: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic stimulation. Intrinsic motivation is the force that compels you to pursue challenging goals, engage in deep work, and push through mental resistance, not because of external rewards, but because the process itself is meaningful. It is the energy that fuels artists, writers, scientists, and entrepreneurs to devote themselves to their craft, even in the absence of immediate gratification. Extrinsic stimulation, on the other hand, is the opposite. It is driven by external incentives, social validation, and short-term pleasure-seeking behaviors that demand little effort but provide quick rewards. The problem is that modern technology has drastically increased the availability of extrinsic stimulation, making it harder for the brain to sustain attention on anything that does not provide instant gratification. Every notification, every quick dopamine hit, every mindless swipe reinforces the habit of distraction, conditioning your brain to crave external input rather than internal engagement. The result? A diminished ability to concentrate on meaningful work, a reduced tolerance for mental effort, and a growing dependence on external triggers to feel engaged. To reverse this, you must retrain your brain to derive pleasure from deep work itself, rather than external rewards. This requires a psychological shift, one that moves your mind away from expecting constant stimulation and towards finding intrinsic satisfaction in focus, effort, and mastery. One of the most effective ways to do this is through the concept of delayed reward association, training your brain to find fulfillment in long-term progress rather than instant gratification. When you immerse yourself in deep work, rather than fixating on completion or outcomes, shift your mindset to enjoying the process of problem-solving, discovery, and growth. The moment you stop viewing focus as something you must force and start seeing it as a skill to cultivate, you change the way your brain perceives effort. Another powerful method for strengthening focus is cognitive priming, using intentional psychological triggers to shift your brain into a high-focus state before beginning deep work. Just as athletes perform warm-up routines before competition, your mind benefits from pre-focus rituals that signal to your brain that it is time to engage fully. These can be small, deliberate actions, such as listening to the same instrumental playlist before writing, lighting a specific scented candle while studying, or performing a brief breathing exercise to clear mental noise before diving into a task. Over time, these triggers condition your brain to associate certain environmental cues with deep concentration, allowing you to enter high-focus states faster and with less resistance. However, even with the best cognitive priming techniques, Your ability to focus is only as strong as your emotional and psychological resilience, your capacity to tolerate discomfort, uncertainty, and delayed gratification. One of the most overlooked reasons people struggle with focus is that they have not trained their minds to handle the discomfort of deep work. Every time you engage in focused effort, your brain encounters resistance, a psychological force that tempts you to stop, seek novelty, or escape into easier tasks. Most people misinterpret this resistance as a sign that they are bad at focusing, when in reality, it is simply an untrained tolerance for mental discomfort. The key to building an unshakable focus mindset is learning to push through this resistance rather than being controlled by it. One of the best ways to develop this resilience is friction-based attention training, intentionally exposing yourself to mentally challenging tasks without giving in to distraction. This can involve reading dense books without pausing, solving complex problems without breaking focus, or practicing extended meditation sessions to strengthen your cognitive endurance. Each time you resist the urge to check your phone, every time you push through mental fatigue without switching tasks, you are reinforcing the neural pathways responsible for sustained concentration. Over time, this rewires your brain to find deep work more rewarding and effortless, while making distractions feel less compelling. Equally important in developing an unshakable focus mindset is learning to override negative self-talk and internal resistance. Many people unconsciously sabotage their own ability to focus by engaging in self-defeating narratives, telling themselves they just aren't good at concentrating or that they always get distracted. These thought patterns become self-fulfilling prophecies, reinforcing the very behaviors they seek to avoid. To break this cycle, you must consciously reframe your self-perception around focus. Instead of saying, "I always lose focus easily," replace it with, "I am training my brain to focus deeply every day." Instead of, "I can't resist distractions," shift to, "I am in control of my attention and can direct it where I choose." These are not empty affirmations. They are psychological recalibrations that shift your identity from someone who struggles with focus to someone who is actively mastering their attention. At its core, focus is not just a skill. It is a mental discipline, a mindset, and a way of engaging with the world. When you stop relying on willpower and instead cultivate intrinsic motivation, cognitive priming, emotional resilience, and self-directed mental training, you move beyond temporary focus hacks and into a lifestyle of sustained, deep work. You begin to see focus as a long-term investment in your mind, one that compounds over time and separates you from the masses who remain trapped in cycles of distraction. In next chapter, we will go even deeper, exploring how to sustain focus for extended periods without burnout, the neuroscience behind peak performance, and how to align your focus habits with your long-term goals. If you've ever wondered how elite performers stay locked in for hours while others lose focus within minutes, this next section will show you exactly how to develop the cognitive endurance of a world-class thinker. Chapter 8. The Neuroscience of Peak Focus: How to Sustain Deep Work Without Burnout. There is a misconception that peak focus is about sheer willpower, about forcing your mind to stay locked in on a task for hours on end, resisting distractions through brute strength alone. This could not be further from the truth. The ability to sustain deep focus over long periods is not about grinding your way through exhaustion. It is about understanding how your brain functions at a neurological level and structuring your focus sessions in a way that aligns with your brain's natural rhythms. The human brain is not designed for constant, uninterrupted concentration. Rather, it operates in cycles of high-performance engagement, followed by necessary recovery. When you ignore these natural cycles and attempt to push through fatigue, your cognitive efficiency declines, your attention begins to waver, and what should have taken 2 hours of high-quality focus ends up stretching into an entire day of fragmented, low-efficiency work. The secret to sustained deep work is not about working harder, It is about working with your brain, not against it. At the core of extended focus is the ultradian rhythm, a biological cycle that governs the fluctuations in your energy, attention, and cognitive function throughout the day. Research shows that the brain operates in 90 to 120-minute cycles of peak performance, followed by a natural decline in energy that requires brief recovery before re-entering another high-focus state. This means that the most effective way to work is not in long, uninterrupted marathons, but rather in structured, deep work cycles, where you fully engage for a set period, followed by deliberate, high-quality recovery. Ignoring these cycles leads to cognitive depletion, decision fatigue, and diminishing returns, while aligning with them allows you to sustain focus far longer than most people can. This is why some of the world's top performers, from elite athletes to researchers to creative professionals, structure their deep work into focused sprints rather than drawn-out, inefficient workdays. The first step to sustaining peak focus is to identify your own ultradian rhythm, to recognize when your natural energy peaks occur, and to structure your most cognitively demanding work during these windows. Most people have 1 to 3 peak focus periods per day, often occurring in the morning and early afternoon, before cognitive energy begins to decline. The key is to schedule deep work during these high-performance windows while using low-energy periods for less demanding tasks. By aligning your work schedule with your brain's natural rhythm, you maximize productivity while minimizing mental strain. Once you have identified your peak focus windows, the next step is to optimize your deep work cycles using the principle of oscillation, alternating between periods of intense concentration and strategic recovery. The most effective way to structure this is through 90-minute deep work blocks, where you engage in complete, undistracted focus on a single task, followed by a 15 to 20-minute active recovery period that restores cognitive energy. However, not all breaks are created equal. Passive, low-quality breaks that involve scrolling through social media or consuming random content do not allow your brain to recover. Instead, true cognitive restoration comes from activities that reset your nervous system and replenish mental resources. This includes taking a short walk outside, engaging in deep breathing, practicing mindfulness, or doing a quick physical activity. These high-quality recovery activities clear mental residue, reduce cognitive fatigue, and prepare your brain for another cycle of deep work. Another critical factor in sustaining deep focus is managing dopamine levels, the brain's primary neurotransmitter for motivation, reward, and sustained attention. Dopamine plays a crucial role in focus because it regulates how engaged and motivated you feel toward a task. When dopamine levels are low, focus feels effortful and distractions become more appealing. However, when dopamine levels are optimized, attention becomes effortless and the brain enters a state of flow, a deeply immersive state where focus is heightened, work feels intrinsically rewarding, and time seems to disappear. One of the most effective ways to optimize dopamine for extended focus is through dopamine anchoring, strategically linking your deep work sessions to small intrinsic rewards that reinforce sustained attention. This can involve setting micro-goals within each deep work session and rewarding yourself only after a full cycle of focused effort. This conditions the brain to associate deep work with positive reinforcement, increasing motivation and reducing the impulse to seek external distractions. However, sustaining peak focus is not just about structuring your work cycles and managing dopamine levels. It is also about protecting your cognitive energy by minimizing unnecessary decision fatigue. Every decision you make throughout the day, what to wear, what to eat, which email to respond to, consumes a small amount of mental energy. The more trivial decisions you make, the less cognitive bandwidth you have available for deep work. This is why many of the world's most productive individuals eliminate unnecessary decisions by creating structured routines, automation, and decision rules. By reducing mental clutter and streamlining daily choices, you preserve cognitive energy for the work that truly matters. Beyond structuring focus sessions and optimizing brain chemistry, another crucial element of sustaining deep work is developing mental resilience, the ability to push through temporary discomfort, boredom, and cognitive resistance. The reality is that deep work is not always enjoyable. There will be moments of frustration, mental fatigue, and an urge to escape into easy distractions. But the ability to push through these moments is what separates those who achieve mastery from those who remain stuck in shallow work. One of the most effective ways to build mental resilience is through cognitive hardening, deliberately engaging in mentally challenging activities that train the brain to tolerate discomfort without giving in to distraction. This can include extended reading sessions without interruption, working on complex problems without switching tasks, or even meditation practices that train the mind to sustain attention for longer periods. Each time you resist the urge to break focus, you strengthen the neural pathways responsible for sustained concentration, making deep focus progressively easier over time. At its core, the ability to sustain deep work without burnout is about understanding your brain's natural rhythms, optimizing dopamine for motivation, protecting cognitive energy, and developing the mental toughness to push through resistance. When you stop working against your brain and start aligning with its natural cycles, focus becomes not just easier, but more enjoyable. Deep work shifts from being a struggle to a flow state, a place where productivity feels effortless and meaningful. Progress happens consistently. In Next, we will explore the hidden cognitive traps that drain focus, how to break free from subconscious distractions, and the role of identity in shaping your ability to concentrate. Many people unknowingly sabotage their own focus due to deeply ingrained mental patterns and unconscious attention loops. We will break those down step by step so that you can eliminate them permanently and unlock even greater levels of cognitive performance. Chapter 9. Breaking Free from Cognitive Traps: How Subconscious Distractions Sabotage Your Focus. There is a silent thief that robs you of your focus, not the obvious distractions like social media, notifications, or external interruptions, but something far more insidious. It is a force that operates beneath the surface of your conscious awareness, subtly pulling your attention away from deep work without you even realizing it. This thief is your own mind, specifically the subconscious cognitive traps that drain your mental energy, fracture your concentration, and weaken your ability to sustain deep focus. These traps are so deeply embedded into daily life that most people do not even recognize them. Yet, they are the invisible barriers that separate those who can work with laser-like intensity from those who struggle to stay engaged for more than a few minutes. If you have ever sat down to work but found yourself inexplicably restless, if you have ever attempted to focus but felt an overwhelming urge to switch tasks, if you have ever experienced mental exhaustion despite not doing anything particularly demanding, then you have fallen victim to these hidden cognitive traps. The good news? Once you become aware of them, you can systematically eliminate them, rewiring your mind for unshakable focus and mental clarity. One of the most common cognitive traps that sabotages focus is open mental loops, unfinished thoughts, unresolved decisions, and unprocessed information that linger in your subconscious, draining your cognitive bandwidth. Every time you start a task but do not finish it, every time you leave an email unanswered, every time you put off making a decision, your brain keeps these unfinished loops active in the background, creating mental clutter that fragments your attention. This is why you can sit down to work on a meaningful project, yet find your mind wandering to something seemingly unrelated. Your brain is still trying to resolve the unfinished loops from previous tasks. Research in cognitive psychology has shown that the brain treats incomplete tasks as open loops that demand resolution, consuming mental energy even when you are not consciously thinking about them. The more of these unresolved loops you accumulate, the harder it becomes to fully engage in deep work, as your mind remains preoccupied with unresolved cognitive baggage. To break free from this trap, you must engage in cognitive closure, deliberately closing open mental loops so that your brain can free up cognitive resources for deep focus. One of the most effective ways to do this is through a daily brain dump, a structured practice where you write down every unresolved thought, decision, or task cluttering your mind, and either take immediate action to close it or schedule a specific time to address it. By externalizing these mental loops onto paper or a digital system, you remove them from your working memory, allowing your mind to fully concentrate on the task at hand. Additionally, using structured task management systems such as the 2-minute rule, if a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately, or the Eisenhower matrix, prioritizing tasks by urgency and importance, helps prevent mental loops from accumulating in the first place. Another powerful cognitive trap that weakens focus is habitual task switching, the deeply ingrained tendency to bounce between multiple tasks, even when working on something important. This occurs because the brain is wired to seek novelty, constantly scanning for new information or stimuli that may be more rewarding than the current task. Every time you switch tasks, whether it is glancing at your phone, checking a new email, or even shifting between unrelated work activities, your brain incurs a cognitive switching cost, a temporary drop in efficiency as your mind recalibrates to the new context. Studies in neuroscience have shown that these switching costs can reduce productivity by up to 40%, as the brain requires time to refocus after each interruption. What makes this trap particularly dangerous is that it operates on an unconscious level. Most people do not even realize they are switching tasks, as it happens in micro moments of distraction throughout the day. To eliminate habitual task switching, you must implement environmental and psychological friction, deliberately creating barriers that make distractions less accessible while making deep work more engaging. One of the most effective ways to do this is by removing all digital distractions from your immediate workspace, keeping your phone in another room, using website blockers, and disabling notifications. However, environment alone is not enough. Your brain must also be trained to resist the impulse to switch tasks. This can be done through the practice of attentional resistance training, deliberately exposing yourself to mildly distracting environments while forcing your mind to stay locked in on a single task. This could mean working in a slightly noisy cafe without letting your attention wander, reading dense material without allowing yourself to check your phone, or even engaging in mindfulness exercises that train your brain to remain present despite external stimuli. Over time, this strengthens the neural circuits responsible for sustained attention, making deep work more effortless. Beyond external distractions, another cognitive trap that silently drains focus is emotional residue, lingering mental energy from previous experiences that carry over into your current task. This occurs when you bring the stress, frustration, or excitement from one activity into another, making it difficult to fully engage in the present task. For example, if you had a tense conversation before starting deep work, your mind may remain preoccupied with those emotions, preventing full immersion. This is why many people struggle to focus despite having no external distractions. Their minds are still processing the emotional residue of previous events. To clear emotional residue and reset your focus, you must develop transition rituals, structured mental resets that allow you to fully disengage from one task before starting another. These can be as simple as taking 5 deep breaths, doing a short movement exercise, or listening to a specific song that signals to your brain that it is time to shift focus. Another powerful technique is journaling for 2 minutes before starting deep work, writing down any lingering thoughts or emotions to clear them from your mind. By consistently implementing transition rituals, you train your brain to compartmentalize focus, preventing emotional carryover from disrupting attention. At its core, breaking free from cognitive traps is about taking control of your mental environment, closing open loops, eliminating habitual task switching, and clearing emotional residue. When you systematically remove these hidden barriers to focus, deep work becomes not just easier, but more deeply satisfying. You shift from a state of scattered attention to a place of cognitive clarity, where every moment of focus becomes an opportunity for mastery and meaningful progress. Chapter 10. The Identity Shift: Rewiring Your Self-Image for Unshakable Focus. There is a reason why some people seem to have effortless, almost automatic concentration, while others struggle to stay focused for more than a few minutes, even when they genuinely want to. It is not just about discipline, external distractions, or even mental strategies. It runs far deeper than that. At the core of sustained, high-level focus is identity, the deep-seated beliefs you hold about who you are and how your mind functions. What most people do not realize is that your ability to focus is not just a skill. It is an extension of your self-image. If you see yourself as someone who is naturally focused, disciplined, and able to engage deeply in tasks without distraction, then focus becomes effortless. It aligns with how you see yourself, and your subconscious mind supports that belief. However, if you see yourself as someone who is easily distracted, who struggles to focus, or who needs constant external motivation to stay engaged, then every attempt to improve concentration will feel like an uphill battle, because your subconscious mind will work against you, reinforcing the identity that you have unknowingly conditioned over time. This is why some people can sit down and enter a flow state within minutes, while others find themselves caught in a constant cycle of distraction and frustration. The difference is not just in external habits or cognitive techniques, but in the internal blueprint, the self-identity that dictates what feels natural versus what feels forced. If you have ever struggled with focus despite trying every strategy, despite removing distractions and setting up the perfect work environment, the problem is not just what you are doing. It is who you believe yourself to be. Until you shift your identity to that of a highly focused individual, every technique will feel like temporary effort rather than a natural way of operating. So how do you rewire your identity for unshakable focus? It begins with understanding how identity is formed and how to consciously reshape it. Your self-image is not fixed. It is a collection of beliefs that have been reinforced over time through repeated experiences, mental narratives, and social conditioning. If you have spent years thinking of yourself as someone who gets easily distracted, your brain has reinforced that belief by constantly looking for evidence to support it. Every time you got distracted, every time you procrastinated, every time you told yourself, "I'm just not good at focusing," your brain registered that as proof of your identity, strengthening the neural pathways that make distraction feel like the default state. The good news is that just as identity can be unconsciously shaped by past experiences, it can also be consciously reconstructed through deliberate reinforcement of new beliefs, actions, and mental conditioning. The first step in this transformation is identity imprinting, deliberately reinforcing the self-image of a focused, high-performing individual until it becomes your subconscious default. One of the most powerful ways to do this is through affirmative identity statements, consciously rewriting the mental script you have about yourself. Instead of saying, "I struggle to focus," you begin to affirm, "I am someone who values deep concentration," or "I engage in deep work effortlessly." However, for these statements to truly rewire your self-image, they must be backed by evidence, small but consistent actions that reinforce the new identity. This is why habit stacking is so powerful. By consistently engaging in micro-actions that align with the identity of a focused individual, your brain begins to internalize that focus is a natural part of who you are. For example, if you start every work session by taking one deep breath and saying, "I am fully engaged," your brain begins to associate that action with deep focus. If you commit to just 5 minutes of uninterrupted deep work each morning, gradually extending it over time, your brain starts seeing you as someone who naturally engages in focused work. The key is repetition and consistency, not perfection. Your brain does not require massive changes overnight. It requires small, repeated experiences that reinforce the new identity over time. Beyond affirmative identity statements and habit stacking, another critical factor in reshaping focus identity is eliminating competing identities, subconscious beliefs that sabotage your concentration without you realizing it. Many people struggle with focus not because they lack discipline, but because deep down, they hold conflicting identities that pull them in different directions. For example, if you have an unconscious belief that productivity makes me lose my freedom, or working too hard means sacrificing my well-being, then no matter how much you try to focus, your subconscious mind will resist because it perceives deep work as a threat to something it values. Similarly, if you have a belief that says, "I work better under pressure," or "I'm a last-minute person," then your brain will subconsciously create distractions and procrastination loops until you are in a time crunch, because it aligns with the identity you have reinforced over time. To eliminate these conflicting identities, you must uncover the subconscious beliefs that are driving them. One of the most effective ways to do this is through identity journaling, a practice where you write down your beliefs about focus, work, and attention, and analyze whether they are serving you or sabotaging you. Ask yourself, what do I believe about my ability to focus? What identity have I unconsciously reinforced when it comes to concentration? Are there any hidden beliefs that make deep work feel unnatural or undesirable? What is the identity I want to embody when it comes to attention and mental clarity? By bringing these subconscious beliefs to the surface, you gain control over them, allowing you to consciously reshape your mental framework and align your self-image with the identity of an individual who thrives in deep focus. The final and perhaps most powerful step in this identity transformation is social reinforcement, surrounding yourself with environments, people, and influences that reflect the identity you want to embody. Your subconscious mind is constantly absorbing cues from your surroundings. If you are surrounded by people who constantly multitask, who are always distracted, who treat focus as an impossible challenge, then that identity will continue to be reinforced. However, if you immerse yourself in a culture of deep thinkers, disciplined creators, and individuals who prioritize cognitive mastery, your brain will start modeling that identity as the new norm. This is why curating your information diet is crucial. What you consume mentally shapes who you become. At its core, rewiring your identity for unshakable focus is not about forcing yourself to concentrate. It is about becoming the kind of person for whom deep focus is natural, effortless, and enjoyable. When your self-image aligns with your cognitive goals, everything shifts. Distraction no longer feels tempting. Deep work no longer feels like a struggle. And your ability to sustain high-level concentration becomes a core part of who you are. In next chapter, we will explore the final piece of the focus equation: how to design an external environment that reinforces deep concentration, how to structure your workspace for cognitive flow, and the role of physical movement in optimizing attention. Most people try to focus while surrounded by invisible distractions that pull them away from deep work. This next section will ensure your external world is fully aligned with your internal focus identity. Chapter 11. The External Advantage: Designing Your Environment for Peak Focus. Most people assume that focus is purely an internal battle, a matter of willpower, discipline, and mental effort. While internal factors like self-identity, habits, and cognitive conditioning play a massive role in sustaining deep attention, there is another dimension that is equally powerful, yet often overlooked: your external environment. The space you work in, the sensory input surrounding you, the structure of your daily routine. These factors act as silent architects of attention, either supporting or sabotaging your ability to focus. What few realize is that your brain is constantly responding to environmental cues, whether consciously or unconsciously. If your surroundings are chaotic, cluttered, or filled with passive distractions, then your mind will mirror that state, making it exponentially harder to lock into deep concentration. However, if your environment is intentionally designed to promote cognitive flow, then focus becomes effortless, not because you are forcing yourself to concentrate, but because your surroundings naturally pull you into a state of deep work. One of the most critical aspects of designing an environment for focus is eliminating ambient cognitive noise, the subtle background distractions that fragment your attention without you even realizing it. This goes beyond obvious interruptions like phone notifications or loud conversations. Cognitive noise includes any environmental element that competes for your subconscious attention, subtly pulling your focus away from the task at hand. For example, visual clutter, such as a messy desk, unrelated papers, or scattered objects, acts as a passive mental drain because your brain has to process each item in your field of vision, even if you are not consciously thinking about them. Studies in neuroscience have shown that visual distractions increase cognitive load, making it harder to sustain deep concentration. This is why minimalist, organized workspaces enhance focus, not just aesthetically, but neurologically, by reducing the amount of background information your brain has to process. Beyond visual clutter, another form of ambient cognitive noise is auditory distractions, background sounds that subtly pull your mind away from deep work. Many people assume that they are unaffected by minor noises like distant conversations, background television, or the hum of electronic devices. However, research in cognitive psychology has shown that even low-level background noise disrupts working memory and reduces cognitive performance. This is because your brain is wired to unconsciously process sound, even if you are not actively listening to it. While some forms of sound, such as white noise, instrumental music, or nature sounds, can enhance focus by masking distractions, unpredictable or speech-based noise, like an office conversation or a nearby TV, significantly impairs deep concentration. To optimize your environment for focus, you must create an auditory workspace that enhances rather than weakens attention. This can be done through sound masking, using controlled auditory input to block out distractions and create a cognitive buffer that shields your mind from external interruptions. White noise machines, nature sound playlists, or deep focus instrumental tracks are all powerful tools for maintaining an optimal auditory environment. If absolute silence works best for you, then noise-canceling headphones can provide a powerful shield against environmental disruptions, allowing your mind to fully immerse in the task at hand. Beyond sound and visual clutter, another key environmental factor in shaping focus is workspace structuring, the intentional design of your physical space to reinforce deep work. Many people attempt to focus in multi-purpose environments, spaces that are associated with both work and leisure, leading to subconscious task conflict. For example, if you try to engage in deep work at the same desk where you check social media, your brain will struggle to fully commit to a focused state because it has been conditioned to expect distractions in that space. This is why contextual separation, dedicating specific spaces to specific cognitive tasks, is essential for training your mind to enter deep focus on command. If possible, designate a workspace that is used exclusively for deep work, free from unrelated activities or distractions. If a separate workspace is not available, then using ritualistic cues, such as adjusting lighting, using a specific chair, or playing a certain type of music, can signal to your brain that it is time to shift into deep work mode. Beyond structuring the workspace itself, another overlooked environmental factor that dramatically impacts focus is movement, the way your body interacts with the space around you. Many assume that focus is purely a mental process, yet the reality is that physical movement plays a critical role in cognitive function, alertness, and sustained attention. The brain is not designed to function optimally in a sedentary state for prolonged periods. When you remain motionless for too long, cognitive performance begins to decline due to reduced blood flow, decreased oxygenation, and lower neurotransmitter activity. This is why extended periods of sitting often lead to mental fatigue, sluggishness, and a diminishing ability to sustain deep concentration. To counteract this, it is essential to integrate strategic movement into your deep work sessions, creating a dynamic cognitive environment that sustains high-level focus. One of the most effective ways to do this is through movement-based focus cycles, alternating periods of deep concentration with short bursts of physical activity to reset the brain and sustain cognitive energy. This could mean using the 52/17 rule, 52 minutes of deep work followed by a 17-minute movement break. The Pomodoro method, 25-minute focus sprints with 5-minute breaks. Or the ultradian rhythm approach, 90-minute deep work sessions followed by 20-minute rest periods. The key is to avoid prolonged static postures by integrating brief but intentional movement, stretching, walking, standing, or even light exercise to keep the brain in an optimal state for focus. Beyond structured movement breaks, another powerful strategy is environmental movement design, structuring your workspace in a way that naturally encourages periodic motion. Standing desks, walking meetings, or even placing frequently used items, such as a water bottle or notes, slightly out of reach, can create natural micromovements that keep your brain engaged without breaking deep workflow. Ultimately, designing your environment for focus is not about forcing concentration through sheer willpower. It is about creating an external world that naturally reinforces deep attention, making focus the default rather than the exception. When your surroundings are aligned with cognitive optimization, free from ambient cognitive noise, structured for deep work, and dynamically engaged with movement, your ability to sustain high-level focus becomes effortless, automatic, and deeply satisfying. Chapter 12: The Hidden Fuel of Focus. Mastering Motivation for Long-Term Cognitive Endurance. Most people think focus is just about forcing attention, about gritting your teeth and pushing through distractions. But what happens when the initial burst of motivation fades? How do some people sustain deep concentration for months, years, or even decades, while others struggle to maintain it for a single afternoon? The answer is not just discipline or willpower. It is a fundamental understanding of motivation, cognitive endurance, and the brain's reward system. The ability to focus long-term isn't about constantly refueling your willpower. It's about designing a system where motivation fuels itself, where attention becomes not something you fight for, but something you are naturally drawn to. This is the missing piece in most discussions about focus. Not just how to start concentrating, but how to keep that focus alive over time without burning out or losing enthusiasm. To truly master long-term focus, we have to look at what drives human behavior at a neurological level. At the core of our ability to stay engaged, to persist through challenges, and to maintain mental stamina is dopamine, the brain's motivation molecule. Many people mistakenly think dopamine is just a pleasure chemical, something that makes us feel good. But its real purpose is deeper. It is the neurochemical that makes us want to pursue things, that makes us anticipate rewards, and that keeps us locked into long-term efforts even when results aren't immediate. When dopamine is optimized, focus becomes effortless because your brain is constantly anticipating the satisfaction of deep work. When it is depleted, every task feels like a struggle, attention flickers, and motivation erodes. This is why people can spend hours in immersive activities, like playing video games, engaging in social media, or binge-watching TV, without losing focus. It is not because those activities are inherently more enjoyable than deep work, but because they are engineered to hijack the brain's dopamine system, creating a continuous cycle of anticipation, micro-rewards, and reinforcement. Every notification, every achievement, every new piece of content triggers a dopamine hit, which keeps the brain engaged in the activity. This is not accidental. It is a direct exploitation of the brain's natural reward circuits. The key to mastering long-term focus is not to fight against this system, but to harness it, to structure your deep work in a way that naturally fuels its own motivation rather than requiring constant force and discipline. One of the most powerful ways to do this is through progress-based dopamine release, structuring tasks in a way that creates continuous, measurable feedback so that your brain receives small bursts of motivation as you move forward. The reason deep work often feels less engaging than distractions is that most people approach it with a delayed reward mindset. They see focus as something that requires struggle now, with the payoff coming much later. This is a mistake. The brain is wired to respond to incremental progress, to small wins that signal achievement in real time. This is why breaking large tasks into smaller, immediately achievable micro-goals dramatically improves sustained concentration. Instead of just saying, "I need to finish this project," reframe it as, "I need to complete this one step, then the next, then the next." Each completed step provides a microdose of dopamine, keeping the brain engaged and reinforcing the focus cycle. Another critical factor in sustaining focus is personal meaning. Aligning deep work with intrinsic motivation rather than relying on external pressure. People often struggle with long-term concentration because they approach tasks with a productivity mindset rather than an identity mindset. They see focus as something they have to do rather than something that aligns with who they are. But the brain is far more likely to sustain attention on something that feels deeply connected to identity and purpose. This is why people who are passionate about a subject, who feel deeply invested in their work, naturally focus for extended periods without distraction. They are not just working on a task, they are engaging in something that reinforces their sense of self. To harness this effect, ask yourself, why does this matter to me? Instead of framing deep work as an obligation, connect it to a higher goal, a mission, a long-term vision, a core personal value. When focus becomes an extension of your identity rather than just an external requirement, it transforms from a chore into a natural state of engagement. Beyond motivation and meaning, another crucial element of long-term focus is cognitive stamina, the ability to sustain mental effort without exhaustion. Many people think they have an attention deficit, when in reality, they have an energy deficit. Their focus isn't failing because they lack discipline. It is failing because their brain is running on empty. Cognitive endurance is built the same way physical endurance is built, through strategic recovery, proper nutrition, and neurological conditioning. The brain consumes enormous amounts of energy during deep work, and when that energy depletes, focus naturally declines. This is why proper sleep, hydration, and nutrition are non-negotiable for long-term cognitive performance. Skipping meals, overloading on caffeine, or running on minimal sleep might allow for short bursts of concentration, but it will inevitably lead to burnout, mental fog, and decreased overall productivity. One of the most overlooked aspects of focus endurance is active recovery, giving the brain structured periods of restoration so that attention remains strong over time. Many people try to push through long periods of work without breaks, believing that constant effort leads to higher productivity. In reality, the brain operates on ultradian cycles, natural 90 to 120-minute focus periods, followed by a necessary recovery phase. Ignoring these cycles doesn't increase efficiency. It depletes cognitive resources, making deep work less effective. To optimize focus, work in cycles. 90 minutes of deep concentration, followed by a deliberate recovery period, whether through movement, mindfulness, or simply stepping away from cognitive demands. This not only prevents burnout, but actually strengthens long-term attention by allowing the brain to replenish its neurochemical reserves. Finally, mastering long-term focus requires resilience, the ability to stay engaged even when motivation fluctuates, when distractions arise, when progress feels slow. Every long-term goal, every deep work effort, every meaningful pursuit We'll have moments where focus feels harder, where resistance emerges, where the initial excitement fades. This is normal. The key is to develop a resilience-based focus mindset, seeing distraction not as failure, but as a momentary challenge to overcome. Instead of saying, "I lost focus, so I failed," reframe it as, "I lost focus for a moment, now I am returning to deep work." The most productive people in the world are not those who never get distracted. They are those who recover from distraction the fastest. Training yourself to immediately return to focus, rather than dwelling on lost time, is the difference between fragmented effort and sustained, long-term cognitive endurance. Mastering focus is not just about improving productivity. It is about reclaiming control over your own mind. In a world designed to fracture attention, developing the ability to sustain deep concentration is a superpower, one that allows you to create, to build, to achieve on a level that distraction-driven minds never will. But focus is not something you have or don't have. It is a skill, a system, a trainable ability that can be strengthened, refined, and mastered. By understanding the science of attention, by designing an environment that reinforces deep work, by harnessing motivation and sustaining cognitive endurance, you can transform focus from a struggle into a natural state of being. And once you do, the limits of what you can accomplish will expand beyond anything you previously imagined. This is just the beginning. The next chapters will dive deeper into the mechanics of attention mastery, breaking distraction cycles, rewiring habits, and building an unbreakable focus identity. If you are ready to take control of your mind, to unlock your highest cognitive potential, and to master deep work in a way that reshapes your future, then let's continue this journey. The power of sustained attention is in your hands. Now let's use it.